What follows is a collection of interviews that were conducted for a video project related to the 100th anniversary of OLGC. Unfortunately, a pandemic and other factors prevented the final vision of this video from being realized. The good news is that even though the footage presented here is in a more raw and unedited form than I'd like, it's still worth watching. Finally, thanks to Kylie Cooper for her help on this project. Here it is, OLGC, the 100 Project, the interviews. Enjoy.
Well, I was born on Morgan Street in Plymouth and baptized at Our Lady Good Counsel. It was on Union Street, and it was like a half a church. It was like in the basement, and why there wasn't more to it, I don't remember. I always thought there had been a fire, but someone said they just hadn't built it. And next door was where the priest lived, and then down the street was another house, and that's where you pull in and you go to the theater in the back. It's that house, and that's where we had catechism. And the priest would teach us a few things, and then he would light up his cigar, and then he'd play the piano, and we'd all sing. So I got married in 1949 from Father Mooney, married us. And at that time, my husband was a Methodist, and we went to Wayne, St. Mary's of Wayne, and he took instructions to be a Catholic and never told anybody. And when his mother found out, she said, "Joan, I just hope he makes a better Catholic than he did a Methodist." I love that. I thought that. You know, she was happy. I was known as a hat lady. Always had a hat and different hats. And now when I go to church, I still wear a hat if my hair looks terrible. And I look around at 1,000 people at each Mass. I'm still the only one with a hat on.
So I started to serve at Our Lady Good Counsel in 1998, and then I was there only for 2 years, but I left and became a pastor in 2000. But it was my second assignment, so I was still, hot off the presses as a new priest, and really, really loved serving at OLGC. One of the things that I completely enjoyed, and I kind of lived in the school. I really enjoyed working with the teachers and the principal and the vice principal and all the kids. We had a lot of fun and brought some interesting creative moments to that through these kids. Being newly ordained, I really enjoyed having the experience of the parishioners because they really molded me and helped me because I was still learning my style. I was very nervous about getting up in front of groups at that time, and they were really welcoming with open arms. And I'm still friends with a good majority of the parishioners to this day, and they come here to the cathedral and help. And so that's just a sign of what these people were about, getting their hands dirty, very family-oriented, and very much about serving the Lord. There was a lot of great conversions and experiences on the journey with them. Well, one of the things that I remember is what an imbecile I made of myself in regards to something specific. We had a parade in regards to Halloween. The year prior, I come in dressed as a Viking, not realizing the kids didn't dress up on Halloween. So then I made it my mission that if the kids go to Catholic school, they're going to have a fun time. And so I then had to dress up as this crazy sumo wrestler and all the kids in this parade and lead it with the kind of celebrating the dignity of the priesthood, but also having fun in the midst of serving the Lord.
The amazing thing is that my first visit, it was my parents and brother and sister and aunt and my nephew. We drove from the shrine of the Little Flower, to Plymouth, and I didn't know the church And my family said, "What is that?" When we were close at Plymouth, what is that? Oh, a building. It's beautiful. I said, "It looks like a Mormon church." So we turned left and we went to where the rectory, old rectory is now at. And I saw the church and I said, "Oh, that's a nice, beautiful, small church." But that is the old church. What turns out to be what I said to my family, that looks like a Mormon church, is my church that I will work with. I didn't say anything. And my parents said, "Oh, is this the one that we asked you?" And you said, the staff. Oh, the best staff ever. Janet, Kathy. The other is, I hate to forget. Nancy. Oh, Nancy. Oh, she's a wonderful. Oh, it's a blessing to have those people around to help us with the ministry.
So in prayer, a little over 7 years ago, Father John discerned that the greatest wound in our parish family was that those of us sitting in the pews, not to mention those outside the church walls, didn't think it was possible to have a friendship with God. And so he discerned that the remedy for that wound was to bring the Alpha course to the parish. So in 2012, we began our journey with Alpha, and it continues today, bearing great fruit and impacting lives. And what we've seen over the last several years is we've witnessed that wound being healed because people have met Jesus Christ. We've witnessed that wound being healed in small groups that lead with friendship and love and trust and welcome and acceptance. And we've witnessed that wound continuing to be healed as many of these small groups continue to journey to accompany one another into deeper discipleship. So we thank God for everything that He's done over the last 7 years, and we look forward to everything that He's going to do in the lives of men and women who come on Alpha in the years ahead.
You know, I was there on the beginnings of starting Alpha, and so that was really one of the great accomplishments I remember. We spearheaded the 24-hour Adoration Chapel. I was really a big proponent of that and moving that forward. When I was there, we did the Year of Faith, and we had those bumper stickers that we put on the back of everyone's car, Faith. And Father John's tagline was, God's work in me to which I respond. I still remember that. Faith is God's work in me to which I respond. And so Alpha, I remember when we were first just talking about it, Father John came to me and he said, "Have you ever heard of this program called Alpha?" And I had. In the seminary, we did a little bit of work with it, and so just talked with him about it and some of the other staff. And then as soon as we started talking more about doing it and we rolled it out, we canceled all of the other programs and we just steam forwarded ahead with Alpha. I saw a shift in that first group of people who went through Alpha, where they really decided, intentionally decided and intimately decided to make a commitment of faith. Again, there's that word faith, where they made that commitment of faith that they wanted to follow Jesus. And certainly it was more Father John's decision than mine, but I went to Father John and I remember him and I just said, "Father, let's move Mass into the main church and let's turn the day chapel into an adoration chapel." And of Father John Ricardo's gifts, he was always just took everything to prayer and he thought about it and I remember it was Advent or Lent, we made that switch and so to have adoration 24 hours a day and Jesus exposed there, again, just shifted the parish dynamics where we really became a Eucharistically centered community on Christ. And so to put Christ the King on his throne and so that we can make sure that he's the focus of it was really changed the dynamics in the parish.
We raised our family here. We have 2 daughters and a son. And they were baptized, confirmed here, went to school here. And now our grandchildren have been baptized here. and are going to school here. Father Doc got us into the head of the EMHC ministry. That's how long it's been. I was out walking with my friend, and he came out of the parish house and said, Father John and I were talking. Would you and Carl take over this ministry? Okay. So we did. I think it's a real vital ministry in our church, and a lot of people are coming into it. So, but
yeah, I think it's grown a lot because we have a lot more positions to distribute communion at, and so we need more. And I think the good news is we've had a response from the parishioners, you know, and that they've come and provided this, or joined this ministry to provide the service to our parishioners. And the big thing about it, I think, is more and more now you see faith-filled people coming, you know.
I remember Father Byrne, when he came in 1953, it was 300 families, and it was a little village in the middle of farmland. But we got to the point where we figured we had to move, that the city was just too small of an area for that many people. It was always the parking problems on the weekend, the narrow streets, and the neighbors mad at us for parking. And one of my favorite things, I used to jokingly tell people, well, you didn't see the church when you moved in, you know, in the school. It's always complaining about that. Some folks went so far as we should have buses, people park in the parking structures downtown, and have bus people to the church. I said, that's not going to work at all. So what we did is we formed a committee. One was the real estate man, the name of Jim McKeon, was very actively involved in the parish, and he had been the mayor of Plymouth for many years. So we would drive around once a month looking for property. Okay. Father Sullivan, leave that to tell you, by accident, just by chance, he found the spot was available. Because we would go, and Mr. McKeon was also a realtor, so we had all the data could get what's available, what's not available. And there was just nothing available at the time. Then by magic, this spot became available, just like overnight. Just like you walked in the spot, you happen to be the person walking in the door at the time. Where somebody had been at the door 5 minutes before you, would not have.
But in 2014, my parents had their kitchen redone, and so I had to go live with my sister for a little bit. And she happens to live in the neighborhood across from Our Lady of Good Counsel. And so I started coming here for Mass, and I was like, whoa, like every time I went to Mass, it was like the homilies were like right on, like I felt so nourished. When I went through Alpha, it kind of like things started to make sense. Like, oh wait, this is Christian life. And I think even just as important is like, then I had friends who were practicing the Christian life and wanted to talk about God. And so I had this community of people. And then we started to do a Bible study together. And so it just continued to like deepen our faith. And the parish also had other great opportunities. And then we ended up feeling like we needed to do something for young adults. Like we're like, there's not really much going on in our parish for young adults. And so we had felt this need. You know, I knew what it was like just to go to work and come home. And so we started thinking, what did we want to do? And so the timing was perfect. We kind of put together a plan. And then we brought it to the parish. And then a few weeks later, Deacon Dave called me, and he was like, hey, we're reconfiguring our ministry, and we want to have a young adult ministry.
And what's really nice about being here, too, is you can talk about God so openly, and it's great, and people get it, and they understand, and it's okay. You don't sound like a crazy person. But it's also helped me in my private life. Like, I would never say anything to somebody outside of like the church, the school, or whatever, talk about God. But I find myself at the grocery store, at the gas station one time. I was pumping gas and another guy was there, and I turned and I said something about Jesus, and he answered me like it was okay. And I thought I would never have done that, you know, a long time ago. So a lot of changes. Oh yeah, it's been really great.
Go to confession. And as someone who hadn't gone in years and had some really heavy things that I needed to confess, I was terrified. But the first thing Father John said was, "Welcome back," and that meant a lot. And he was just so kind and compassionate and just truly made me feel like everything that I thought was so horrible and awful was something that was just under the rug, like it's gone. I didn't have to think about it anymore.
So I think the first thing I'd say about when I first came to OLGC was it was almost like coming back home, because I had met so many people who were parishioners when I was stationed at St. John's in Plymouth from 2001 to 2004. And so it really was a sense of homecoming. I was really overwhelmed by the love that people lavished on me. And at the time, Father Steve Burr, who came with me, and then Father Thomas Devados, who's back in India. And I think that the biggest thing we tried to do when we first came was just do anything we could to not talk about money, because we knew money had been talked about for so long, and just to try to build a sense of family. Yeah, so we would always say that I didn't think it was insignificant that the property of the church was the third tallest location in Wayne County. And so there's that red light on the top of the church building. And I think the Lord just gave us the image shortly after we had arrived that God wanted to make of Our Lady of Good Counsel a city on a hill. And so in ancient days, we would talk about this, that especially in medieval towns, cities were built on top of hills, and they were built on top of hills for protection, right? You could see the enemy coming to attack. But you don't light up a city for protection. You light up a city so that the people who are out in the wilderness, who are lost, can see something and they know there's safety there. I want to get there. And so God just gave us that image. Like He wanted to use the people of good counsel as like a lighthouse in a world that's lost, to try to help lead many more into an encounter with Him. And so He did that, right? I mean, He used good counsel, continues to use good counsel as a place that people would come to from all over the country. Like, it wasn't unusual, as you know, for us at every Mass to have people come up and say, "Hey, I'm visiting from Ohio," or "I'm here from Arizona," or "I'm here from South Carolina," or remember the one year during Holy Week we had visitors come from Australia. I mean, we had people come from England, all because they heard that God was doing something amazing at Our Lady of Good Counsel. Yeah, so the idea behind the renovation of the sanctuary was just, I had been approached really for a series of years by a number of people who had a desire to do something in the sanctuary. I think I myself had a desire to, if God would create an opportunity to help our sanctuary, which was always a place of prayer and whatnot, just to become, I think, more clearly, not simply a thing of beauty, because the old sanctuary was beautiful, but something that could teach. And I think because, the parish went through rerouting, we had so many people who had gone through Bible studies. So the parish became, I think, more than maybe any parish I've ever seen, what I might call biblically literate. And so the sanctuary was able to capitalize on that. Everything from, the Hebrew and the Greek, to the tabernacle being an image of the Ark of the Covenant, to the paint behind the crucifix being the color of the clothes that Mary's wearing when she appears to Juan Diego, to the altar being something which has precious stones in it. I mean, like, everything was able to capitalize, if you will, on the literacy that people in the parish had biblically, and then also to be a means by which they could teach their friends about salvation history simply by things that were in the sanctuary now, whether it was the Hebrew or the Greek, which would provoke people to ask questions like, what does that mean and why is it up there, or the tabernacle or whatnot. Yeah, so I often say to pastors, I think there's 8 essentials to parish renewal, and the first essential is what I call Eucharistic exposition, which I call the wrecking ball. So I had an experience early on as a priest where God just showed me, I felt, that if we would simply put the Lord out in exposition, He would do all the work. And so people did see there was a great desire to build something like a community center. It wasn't just a gym. Suddenly it was something which was very much aligned with the mission of the parish, which was evangelization. And so you had a gym, and you had a massive teen room, place for kids to gather, and you had childcare rooms, 3 of them. You had a nursing mother's room. You had tons of meeting space for Bible studies or small groups or whatnot. And suddenly I think once it became not simply about athletics, but about advancing the mission of the parish, which was evangelization, people just stepped in, gave, and we've got this beautiful expansion. Lou Broll, one of the many saints, I think, that I met at Our Lady of Good Counsel, who I continue to talk to and pray for and ask him to pray for me. Lou had an amazingly contagious joy. I've never heard him say an unkind thing about anybody. And personally for me, in addition to just his leading, obviously, at the 4 o'clock Mass for so many years, together with that great contingent and ensemble of people he had around with him, for me, he will be forever identified with Exodus and the proclamation that he would give every year at the Easter Vigil of God commanding Moses to split the Red Sea and to pass through it. And so every time I read that reading, I think of Lou and that commanding, joyful, thunderous voice, reading that reading in the midst of all those people.
And one of the first memories here at Our Lady of Good Counsel was Father Byrne, who was retired at the time. And I was like 8 months pregnant, and it was the middle of winter, and I was sick with the flu. And there's pounding on the front door and pounding on the front door. So I get up to see who it is, and it's Father Byrne. And I'm going, oh my gosh. And so I opened the door and told him, I'm really sick. He goes, oh, I'm just here to bless your house. It's okay. I said, I don't want you to get sick. And he said, it's okay. He said, I just came to bless your house. And I said, okay. So he went through the house and he blessed the house, and then he specifically
dragging our 2-year-old daughter behind you.
Right, wondering what's going on. And so he said to me, he said, okay, where's the baby's room? I want to bless the baby's room. So we went to the nursery and he blessed the baby's room, and a special blessing for the crib. And it was just the warmest, most welcoming thing that could have happened.
I guess I'm also known as the vampire or Dracula, because one of my jobs here at Good Counsel is to coordinate the blood drives for the Red Cross. I've been doing it for about 15 years now, and my goal has always been to try and get one of the pastors or the associate pastor to donate blood at one of our drives, and I've had little or no success. Many of the priests have lived in Europe, and there's many reasons why you can't donate. Father Dave came here 1.5 years ago. Bless you, Father Dave. And one of the first things I tried to do was to recruit him as a donor. Always good to see someone in a collar donating. Might drag some more donors in behind him. And Father Dave said, he gives me this funny look and he says, no, it's not going to happen. I said, well, why? And he says, I'm scared. I said, what are you scared of? Needles? He says, I'll faint. Honest to God, I will faint.
I guess the greatest opportunity that I saw was that the parishioners were just very kind, very energetic. There was a lot that was going on in the parish at the time. We had a great music ministry. Lou Broll was heading up the music ministry, and now he's heading up the choirs in heaven. And just a great man, that had the ability to draw people in, and in a wonderful way. Well, it's very obvious that Our Lady of Good Counsel for 100 years has been what the Church proclaims it to be. The Church is the body of Christ, and Good Counsel has had a blessed opportunity to be a praying community, a community that was active in the neighborhood and also in the wider area of service and ministry to those less fortunate. A lot of opportunities of gathering people together. And I think that's one of the great gifts. I believe that's what has allowed Good Counsel to continue to grow.